Cloudcast Media. Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, and we are so pleased to have in the studio, making a multiple return appearance, Dave Koontz. He's the Director of Marketing for the USS Midway Museum and the Chair of the San Diego Veterans Day Parade. Always good to see you, my longtime friend.
Well, it's great to be here, and I always appreciate the opportunity to be with you on your show.
Well, you always give some great content. We're joined by the associate producer of our Spotlight show, Brandon Joe. Brandon is also a young CEO of Treasure Hacks. He's his own, company he formed, and he does just a great job producing our shows and also sitting in as a co-host every once in a while. How you doing, Brandon?
Doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Of course, Brandon is a junior at UCSD and is in the midst of finals. Is that correct?
Midst of midterms.
Midterms, thank you very much.
But then midterms last for the rest of the year, so it's just like midterm.
Does it really?
Yep, UCSD style.
Wow.
I don't miss any of that.
Yeah. Where'd you go?
I can't wait till I don't miss any of that.
Where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to a college in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania called Duquesne University.
Great basketball school.
As a mini Notre Dame.
Yeah.
But yeah, we did have a really good basketball program. In fact, Norm Nixon, who played for the Los Angeles Lakers for a number of years, he graduated just as I started.
Is that right? Yeah. Very,
shows you
very
how
good.
old I am, right?
Well, listen, I'm older than you, for God's sake. San Diego State, Aztec for life. Thank you very much. Dave, just a quick, vision and mission of your iconic USS Midway Museum.
Well, the USS Midway has just truly become, as you just mentioned, an icon in San Diego. There were quite a few corners or quite a few centers in San Diego 20 plus years ago that weren't really super hip on the Midway coming to San Diego. They really weren't sure what it was going to do on the Bay, but as it's turned out, it has been just a tremendous success story. And our mission is to really to educate, and to entertain guests and students from right here in San Diego and around the world, and provide some sort of context for them on the importance not only of our U.S. Navy, but our U.S. military and what they have done for this country over the last nearly 250 years. So it's a great opportunity for us to share the history of naval aviation, and we do it in an incredibly interesting way, not only with our exhibits and our engagement experiences, but as you know, Drew, we have over 800 volunteers, and about half of them are docents. And you will be engaging with docents while you're on board the ship, and they will be telling you not just something about this airplane or this piece of equipment, but they've got stories behind them. Their own personal experiences when they were serving in the Navy and the Marine Corps for the most part. And I think the thing that's most interesting is that the average age of our docents is about 74, 75 years old. And so the stories that they told 30 years ago, believe it or not, have become slightly more embellished over the last few decades. And so it actually adds a little bit more to the entertainment value of those adventures on the high seas that they experienced when they were younger men.
Right. How many of the docents actually flew off the USS Midway?
Interestingly enough, we have about 80 sailors or 80 people in general who served at some point either with directly on the Midway as part of ship's company or with the Air Wing. And so, those are some of our high pri volunteers, because not only can they tell stories about the Navy, but they can talk directly about the ship and the experiences they had on the ship.
And just curious, how many of these stories have you heard? Did you talk to each docent? Did you just hear them over time?
Well, you never hear the same story twice, even though it might be about the same subject matter. That's the great part about our docents. And no, I mean, we have fun talking about how much they may or may not embellish stories. But the key thing is that they really are able to bring naval history alive, and they're really able to bring the Midway alive, because they can talk about the experience that they directly had, with that aircraft or on that part of the ship. And it is really something that is just so impactful on our visitors. And in fact, if you look at TripAdvisor and the reviews that we get on TripAdvisor, I would say 1 out of every 3 review that we have on TripAdvisor specifically talks about our volunteers.
Wow. Because, I mean, it's something you can never get out of a history book. Never.
No.
When you talk to someone directly who experienced these things, maybe embellished a little bit or not, it's almost like listening to a piece of history right in front of you live.
Exactly. And that's what I say. We love to, mainly through our volunteers and our docents, we really like to make naval aviation and naval history come alive because they're able to have those direct stories of their personal experiences. And whether you're 5 years old, 15 or 50, our guests really, really love hearing those stories because it makes much more of a difference than just seeing a static aircraft or a static exhibit.
Right. Have you been on the Midway?
I have not actually.
Oh my! Okay. Well, we need to rectify that.
Yeah, that's
post-haste.
Bring me on there. I had an opportunity too because my cousin came down here for my birthday, and we all spent our time on the beach. And she's like, "I'm going to the USS Midway," and she just left. She left to go on the Midway.
How'd she enjoy it?
Smart girl.
Oh, she loved it. She visits these sorts of sites all over California, up and down, and it's probably her favorite activity to do. It's just she finds it in a way like. Almost, it's so interesting to walk onto a ship where you know that there's been battles that have been fought, that there's been people that have served and like given their life for this cause.
Sure.
And now you're walking on it. You're just casually walking on this, looking at like, she was like just almost laughing about how on one of the other ships, they have like X's over how many like planes they shot down. And she's just like, we're just here.
Yeah.
Like these random people looking at this and knowing that there are people that have been shot down casually on this sign.
Well, I think just, for folks that have had no association with the military and especially the Navy, just coming on an aircraft carrier or at any naval ship museum is just impressive in and among itself just because of the massive size of it. But again, it's the experience on the Midway as well as so many of the other naval ship, historic ship museums. It's more than just the ship itself. It's really the stories, as you were mentioning, behind the ship, what the experiences. And I mean, there were more than 100,000 sailors that served on the Midway over the course of its 47-year history. So, there were a lot of people whose lives really changed by their service on the Midway, especially those that were involved when the Midway was involved or participated in various combat deployments in Vietnam as well as Desert Storm. So
we're chatting with Dave Koontz. He's the Director of Marketing for the USS Midway Museum. He's also the chair of the San Diego Veterans Day Parade. We're going to chat about that in a few seconds. I'm Drew Schlosberg. Let's get to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things for people living in San Diego County, joined by my associate producer, Brandon Joe. He's also the CEO of Treasure Hacks. Dave, so talk a little bit about I do want to get back to the education component because, as you know, Classroom of the Future Foundation, which I'm involved in, has been knee-deep with you folks since the inception of the Midway coming here. But talk about the parade.
Yeah, we are really excited to be part of the parade at the Midway. As most folks know, the parade here, the Veterans Day Parade in San Diego has been here for decades. It started back in 1987. And our good friend, retired Lieutenant Colonel Jack Harkins, ran the parade for a number of years.
That's right.
And did a fabulous job. And then, of course, the parade, like so many other things in San Diego and around the country, got derailed with COVID. And it basically took a 3-year hiatus. Midway moved into the lead 2 years ago.
That's right.
And we brought it back last year, and it was just a tremendous success. We had over 90 entrants into the parade. Tens of thousands of folks came down and lined the sidewalks on Harbor Drive to watch the parade, and we're really excited to bring it back this year. And one of the things that we'd like to do, even though this is our second year of being part of the parade, is we not only want to be able to salute and honor all of those who have worn the uniform of this nation, but we want to be able to emphasize something particular. Last year, we were able to emphasize a number of milestone anniversaries in the military. And this year, of course, is a major milestone in military history. This is the 80th anniversary of the invasion of Normandy, or D-Day.
Right.
So we're really excited that 3 of our Grand Marshals will be World War II veterans, 2 of which actually hit the beach of Normandy back in June of 1944. One is 101 years old, and another will turn 105 years old a week before the parade.
Well, that is so impressive. Have you met them?
I haven't had a chance to meet them. We've had some correspondence, mainly with their
caretakers,
kids and their grandkids.
Oh, yeah, and great grandkids probably.
Exactly. But if I have a few minutes, I'll
please
mention who they are. So one of them is one of the veterans. His name is Clayton Baum. His nickname was Boy. And he joined the Army in 1943, participated in a number of major campaigns during World War II. But he went into France with the Allied forces back in June 1944. He performed several roles with his unit in the Army. He was a company clerk. He manned machine guns and just was sort of a jack of all trades. And he marched all the way across Europe. We also have a Navy veteran, interestingly enough, because I think most people don't think of the invasion of Normandy as a naval operation, when in fact there were literally hundreds and hundreds of ships that supported not only getting the Army forces to the beach, but also softening up that part of the beachhead before the actual troops went in. And so Joe Wilson, who again, he's the one who will be turning 105 years old just before the parade. He was on a landing ship tank, or an LST, which were the types of vessels, smaller vessels that actually went in and landed on the beach and unloaded troops and equipment. So he not only was there, but he also saw battles in North Africa, the invasion of Sicily. So he is going to be our second D-Day veteran. And then we also have a young man named Clayton Shiner, who's 101 years old.
Youngster.
He joined the Army in 1943, African-American. He was with an all-black unit, an engineering construction battalion. And so he helped work their way through into Germany. And their unit did a lot of work actually building and repairing a lot of the infrastructure that was needed to get the U.S. and the Allied forces across Europe. So we're very blessed to have all three of them with us.
Well, that first of all, I'm getting chills even thinking about this. How many of them live in San Diego?
All three of them live in San Diego.
Right. And how many living D-Day Normandy folks are around? Is there a guess? Hard to say.
I honestly don't have a guess, but I know the number is not very large. There was about 160,000 troops, both U.S. and Allied forces, that hit the beach. But then there were also hundreds and hundreds of thousands of other military forces from many different countries who supported the invasion.
Right.
So when you think of the tens of millions of troops that actually served for the Allied forces during World War II, and we are now approaching. Again, this is the 80th anniversary of this actual invasion.
Right.
We're talking about World War II, the youngest World War II veterans being like 96, 97 years old. So the numbers are getting fewer.
Yeah, I think, as you know, my dad fought at Guadalcanal, and which was a very tough battle, to say the least, and a very important one in the Pacific, as you well know, in that area. We're chatting with Dave Koontz. He's the Director of Marketing for the USS Midway Museum, also the chair of the San Diego Veterans Day Parade. I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media, listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on a Community Show, brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, for 6 decades doing great things in San Diego County, joined by my associate producer, Brandon Joe. When we come back from break, I want to really hit on the education component. Dave, I know you folks have been very proud of it. Classroom of the Future Foundation, which I've been affiliated with since '97, obviously was knee-deep with you folks, and it would be remiss if we didn't give a shout-out to Rudy Shappy, who I actually worked with at San Diego Unified a long time ago. And Midway U was a collaboration of the Classroom of the Future Foundation and you folks as well. And then we'll sit there, and we cannot leave this interview without talking about Freedom Park and all the great stuff that you're doing in this really cool Jingle Jets celebration you have coming up. I was happened to be at that last year as you celebrate the 20th anniversary of USS Midway Museum. We will be right back.
When you do your banking with Mission Fed, you get great rates on auto and home loans. That's good for you, but something good also happens for a lot of other people. We're not for profit, so we put money back into the community to help lots of great nonprofits to keep San Diego strong. So you're not just getting something good, you're doing something good. Come to Mission Fed. It's banking that's good for all.
Brand amplification is the DNA of Cloudcast Media, and our code is the powerful blending of sound, voice, and storytelling to lift local brands and their communities. Whether it is our Brandcast, Schoolcast, or Causecast platforms, the unifying ethos is all about this community, the one you call home. If you dare to dream and want to explore the brand amplification of Cloudcast, a national leader in local podcasting and other Winfluence strategies, please visit us at cloudcast.us.
I'm Drew Schlosberg of Cloudcast Media. You're listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show, the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, just doing great things in San Diego County, whether it's food insecurity, whether it's literacy, arts. They are shoulder to shoulder with so many organizations in our region. We are chatting with Dave Koontz, Director of Marketing for the USS Midway Museum and the Chair of the San Diego Veterans Day Parade. I am joined by my associate producer, Brandon Joe. He's also the CEO of Treasure Hacks. You know, Dave, before we get into Freedom Park, maybe just briefly just talk about how you guys are so proud of those thousands of students that come on the Midway and the relationship with the Classroom of the Future Foundation.
It sure is. It is a true hallmark of the USS Midway that started very shortly after the museum opened its doors to the public back in 2004. It's a multi-layered program. We have our onboard field trips where we bring tens of thousands of students into the Midway in a number of curriculums, but most of those curriculums revolve around STEM. So that's really important that we focus on engineering, math, and science and technology. We also have, and if there was a benefit byproduct that came out of COVID, was our distance learning program. For almost probably more than a year, we were not able to bring students on board the ship. So we went ahead and reached out to the students and started a virtual program, which we decided to keep after schools came back into session. So I may be slightly off on this, but I want to say that we have now done educational programs in schools in 43 states around the country, which is really impressive. Again, reaching tens of thousands of more students that would never have the opportunity because they live in New Hampshire to come to Midway. We also have our overnight program, which is a really fun educational program because the kids get to be sailors. They get to sleep in their bunks overnight, but we have an educational component that's involved with that. And one of the other programs that we have that's kind of a secret hidden gem is our Midway Institute for Teachers. And we do a series of seminars every summer where we bring in dozens of teachers who apply, and they're selected to be part of this seminar program. These teachers come in from high schools from around the country, and they sit in lectures by a series of college professors from a number of Southern California universities that are focused on World War II, the Cold War, Vietnam War, Korean War, and then they're able to take what they've learned in those seminars that are very structured back and build curriculum in their own schools, because unfortunately a lot of the history about the military in these time frames and these campaigns is not really taught extensively anymore. So it's great that we're able to help these teachers go back to their high schools, whether they're in California or Virginia, and make sure that those who have served and sacrificed for this country are not forgotten by the younger generations.
Right. Brandon?
Wait, I'm just curious. Why do you think that World War II is not being taught in as much depth nowadays? Because that's something that is integral to the world to understand why a lot of the conflicts we have today are happening.
And I think part of that is it's time. The World War II was 80 years ago. And so with as much history that has transpired between World War II and today, it's the opportunity to how much information on things that have happened over time that can be worked in. So, some schools certainly, and some teachers and some programs will emphasize those times in history more than others. But if there's anything that Midway can do to really enhance the opportunity to teach the younger generation, or at least pass on information that they have moving forward, we want to be able to do that.
But Brandon brings up a great point on this, and he is so much more mature behind his age. To be honest,
way
with you.
mature than I was at his age,
and my age now. For God's sake, for God's sake, while we're at it. But the point is, that he's spot on. There's so many things that you can say. What is happening in this world in 2024? That you can just go back and say, man, that's 1933 like, or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
And without that context, and I'm glad that Brandon brings that up because it's his generation. Certainly that's going to be he's already a leader in his generation that's going to have to sit there and recognize this. And one of the things we always like to ask Brandon is that with his group of friends, and we know that's probably different than other groups and all that business. They're, highly educated and they're motivated and all that. Are other kids talking about that type of stuff,
Definitely. Not all of them, but there's a very select few. I've known like 4 students that just obsess over World War II, specifically that war.
Yeah.
And whenever you open up the can of worms and you get them to start talking, they know it from back and forth and back. But those students are rare and far in between, which is unfortunate because I know you say 80 years ago, like it's some grand expanse of time, but that's not that long. That's like less than 100 years.
It's not that long, but when you think of all the things that have transpired over the course of those 80 years, I don't mean to say that like it's so far back that we.
But there's like so many things that happen.
Other things that have happened since the time that it's really difficult when you're building a curriculum. With a finite amount of time in high school that you're able to do it. I think one of the other things that's really also an extension of our education program, and I know. Drew, you know him, Carl Zingheim, who is our ship's historian, who has forgotten more than I will ever know about military history. He actually teaches a World War II class at SDSU.
Oh, nice.
And I had a chance to sit in on his class last year, and I was just in amazement of how good his class is. And I was saying to myself, I wish Carl would have been around 40 years ago when I was in college because I would have loved to have taken his class.
Yeah.
And I had an opportunity to talk to a number of his students.
Yeah.
And these were students that weren't necessarily history majors. One was a journalism major. A couple of them were science majors. And they still have felt that Carl's class was one of the favorite and most informative classes that they've ever had. So the fact that those 30 students in that particular semester have a greater context of what was going on in the world 80 years ago makes me feel much better.
And just switching topics a little bit, because I know we're running low on time, tell me a little bit more about Freedom Park. We were talking a little bit about it before the show, but I'd like to hear about the background.
Sure. So Freedom Park is a promise that the USS Midway Museum and the Port of San Diego made to the community nearly 20 years ago when the ship came down here, is at some point was to transform Navy Pier, which is the pier that the Midway is moored to, into a public park. And we have finally gotten to a point, yes, it's taken a while, but we've finally gotten to a point where both the port and the Midway are able to act on that promise. So, again, it's a public-private partnership between us and the port. And the desire, not the desire, I mean, we're moving forward on it, is basically to transfer the park or the pier into the largest veterans park on the West Coast. So it's going to be a tribute to all of those who have worn the uniform of this country. We will have a parade ground in the park, which is synonymous with where ceremonies are done on military bases. And so a lot of the ceremonies that are done on the ship right now might be able to be transferred down to the parade ground. We'll have a Footsteps of Freedom promenade on the north side of the pier that will have kiosks and other accoutrements that will talk about the service and sacrifice of those that have been in the military with the United States. We're going to have sort of a garden area that's out near the head of the pier on the bay with some trails, and then we're going to have some statues and some other a large American flag. So it's really going to be a beautiful park. And even though it's going to be a tribute to veterans, it's really a public park. So it's going to be a great community place, a great community space for those living in San Diego. And it's also going to be a major reason to be downtown on the bay for visitors coming into San Diego. So it's it's literally a 5-year project. We started this. We got the coastal development permit from the California Coastal Commission a couple of years ago. We're in the midst of tearing down that large old warehouse building that's on the pier right off of Harbor Drive right now. That'll be done by the end of the year. And then the actual formal construction of the park will begin next year. probably done by the end of 2027, but no later than early 2028. So it'll be a 5-year total project, but the actual construction of the park itself will be a little less than 3 years.
Yeah, and almost making it into another focal point of San Diego, if not the focal point of San Diego.
Yeah, it
There's
really
so much
will be.
history
It's
in
just going to
there.
be a tremendous reason to come downtown and just enjoy being on the bay. Not that there's plenty of things already to enjoy in the bay,
It is
but
San
this
Diego.
is going to be a tremendous enhancement on the Embarcadero, and we are really, really excited about it. And if you go on Midway's website, there's opportunities for anybody to actually become part of the development of this. We're actually selling bricks that you can have that'll be permanently placed on the pier in the parade ground area. So your name or the name of a loved one, or especially the name of a loved one who served in the military, they can be immortalized on
Do you know how much those bricks will be going for? Or you
There's multiple tiers. They run from $1,000 to $5,000, and they're different sizes.
Right.
You can etch into the brick
Yeah.
a message or the names that you want. And
Yeah.
so, if you go onto the USS Midway Museum's website and go to the Freedom Park tab, you can get down and we can get you more information on those.
Yeah,
bricks.
so I got a brick for my dad at the World War II Museum in New Orleans, and so it was really cool. Have you been to that?
I have not.
Oh, you need to make a stop there.
I need a pilgrimage there, yeah.
Yeah, in New Orleans. We got a couple more minutes to go, but we need to talk about Jingle Jets just for a few seconds.
Yeah, we basically are taking the holidays and putting a military or a naval aviation twist on it. So we had our first Jingle Jets last year. It was we were really pleased at the response from 90% of the visitors to Jingle Jets came from San Diego County. So we really wanted it to be a local event, a reason for folks here in San Diego to come down to the waterfront. This year we've added another 250,000 lights. So we've got more than 750,000 lights that will be put on aircraft and the carrier itself. We're adding a scavenger hunt for kids. We're actually activating the full motion simulators in our virtual reality experiences that'll have Christmas or holiday themed experiences there. More activities for kids. It starts, tickets are actually on sale now. You can go to Midway's website for that. It'll start on November 22nd and it'll run 22 nights between then and December 23rd. And it's again, another great reason to come down to the Embarcadero during the holidays, and a really unique holiday experience that you won't be able to get anywhere else in the country.
I enjoyed it too. Getting back to the parade, is the parade free?
Parade's free. Yeah, it starts at 10 o'clock on November 11th on Harbor Drive. It'll start down by the County Administration Building and come down Harbor Drive past the Midway. It should run from 10 to 10:30. We have over 85 entrants already lined up. We're really appreciative of our friends at NBC7 who are our media sponsors.
Nice.
And then we also have Verizon is the parade sponsor. So it's especially in a town like San Diego that's a Navy Marine Corps town. We have over 200,000 retired and veterans here in San Diego. And if there's any city that needs to be saluting its veterans, it's San Diego, and we're really happy to be making this public tribute to all those who've worn the
That's
uniform
great.
of our
And then
nation.
will we be able to hear from those three veterans of World War II? Is that a ceremony on the Midway?
There won't be a ceremony. They were actually going to be our grand marshals in the parade.
Oh, they're going to be in the parade.
they'll
Okay,
be
waving from
in
a
the
car.
cars there. So there'll probably be some interviews with them while they're there.
That's great.
But we're, one, delighted that they're still with us, and two, even more so that they're able to participate in the parade and be saluted.
How many folks are you expecting at the parade?
Tens of thousands of people coming
So
down.
get there early.
Yeah,
right?
get down there early. It's really a great experience, and if there's anything that makes you feel good about being an American, it's being down at the Veterans Parade.
Well, Dave Koontz, you're a treasure. We love having you on the show. And, we can't talk enough about what's going on at the USS Midway. We've had the docents on, the head of the docents, and everything else in between. So we know you'll be coming back on, or Terry Kraft, the CEO, and talk about whatever is going to be bringing people to that beautiful ship of yours. So thanks so much, Dave.
Thank you, Drew. Always appreciate it.
You bet. Dave Koontz, he's the Director of Marketing for the USS Midway Museum and the Chair of the San Diego Veterans Day Parade. I'm Drew Schlosberg. You've been listening to another edition of Drew Schlosberg Spotlight on the Community Show. We are the nation's longest-running community podcast, now in our 18th year, brought to you by the very cool folks at Mission Fed Credit Union for 6 decades, doing great things in San Diego County. We hope you enjoyed the interview.
You've been listening to an episode of Drew Schlosberg's Spotlight on the Community Show, amplifying the voices of social impact organizations, entrepreneurs, local nonprofits, and other community champions who shape the culture, creativity, and connectivity of San Diego community. Brought to you by Mission Fed Credit Union, bringing good things to San Diego for over 60 years. Learn more about what is good for you and good for all by visiting www.missionfed.com.
Cloudcast Media.